Welcome to Leaders in Action Looking Ahead. I'm Robin Trimmingham of the Olderhood Group, and my guests today are Olderhood CEO Bill Story and John Neal, who's the CEO of Lloyd's of London. This is part 3 of our chat with John. Welcome back, John.
Hi, Robin. Hi, Bill. Good to be back.
John, I'd like to move over and now into basically the future of world insurance, but the future of Lloyd's. And technology plays perhaps an ever increasing, an important part of the entire operation. And I know that you've recently issued a report called Blueprint 2, which I have read. And there's no question but what the technology component and the future of Lloyd's is based on, or perhaps driven by, the future of technology. Because I was very interested in one thing that was mentioned in the report, which was called the data store, which is that the sort of central repository. So I think there are so many angles to the question of technology. Yeah. So I'm going to do the easy thing. I'm going to throw it to you, and I'm going to say, okay, tell us about technology and the future of Lloyd's and the future of world insurance.
Well, it's a big issue for us, Bill. It's one of our key planks. We've got 4 things we work on. I think we've been working on performance to demonstrate that the market has a real value proposition. We wanted to set the right tone for culture, to show that we really do set the right tone for the most inclusive marketplace that you can imagine. And I'm sure we'll talk about purpose and sustainability. But right in the middle is Blueprint 2, which is about the digitalization of the marketplace. And you're right. I mean, technology sits sort of front, square and center in that respect. And it's simply about doing things better, cheaper and more efficiently. So speed creates efficiency, speed creates better accuracy, provided we can do that well, which ought to mean that we can reduce the cost of producing and distributing the product for the customer and therefore sell more product. So technology sits at the center of it. And in a way, I'm relaxed about the technology. I say relaxed quietly because it's a hard ask to re-engineer a marketplace. But the change is tech and culture, actually, because we've got to change the market from thinking about documents. You and I were talking offline about brokers wandering into the underwriting room with big cases under their arms. It's stopping all of that and saying, no. The market works on data standards. So if we can get those data standards right, we can issue a policy quickly. We can identify a policy that's in force quickly and pay the claim much more quickly. So people have got to culturally change from a document to data. And then at the back end, we've got to persuade those 300 brokers that turn up on our front doorstep every day and those 100 insurers that this is all really a good idea and they need to adopt it. So I think there are 2 components. There's the technology solutions, which I think are reasonably tried and tested. Yes, a little bespoke for us, but it's also cultural.
I wonder if the pandemic perhaps has helped the cultural change that you're referring to. The advent of any form of technology, even the simplest form of technology, sometimes was always a bit of an obstacle. It was always a hurdle to try and get over, to try and get old fogies like me to say, well, okay, maybe I'll just... So I'm wondering if maybe the pandemic and this, the virtual room and the working from home, etc. I wonder if that's going to be a benefit and advantage. Does that give you a bit of a leg up to say, hey, listen, we at Lloyd's are changing and we are adopting more technological, situations and developments?
Well, I think 2020 was an interesting year, Bill. You had the pandemic, which, the flick of a switch left everybody working remotely. So if you weren't able to perform digitally, you were in a lot of trouble. Mm-hmm. And so if there were any laggards, then they had to get on the bus pretty quickly to understand what the digital world looked at. So you've got, yes, the pandemic making a difference. Remember, and we lose this, don't we? Brexit was on the go. The UK was finishing its break from Europe, which brings with it its own challenges, its different activities of protectionism. How do you keep those borders open? How do you communicate? How do you transact? And you'd also, and everyone forgets this as well, but you'll remember it where you're based, you have one of the most active North American hurricane seasons on record in 2020. So there were 3 things on the go, all of which means, look, if the market doesn't think differently, if it doesn't embrace technology to understand risk, to be able to price risk, if it doesn't embrace technology to efficiently affect the transaction, if it doesn't think that technology can push the boundaries of the borders, it's missed a trick. So I think often in life, it's not always the good ideas, it's timing, isn't it? You can have the right person with brilliant ideas. If the timing's wrong, no one embraces the change, it doesn't happen. I think timing's on our side and everyone's thinking, yep, you know, to your prompting, Bill, yep, we have got to do things differently. And I think that makes it all possible, because if you're making fundamental change, and we're making fundamental change in the way in which the market conducts itself, you won't get everything right first time. There'll be some teething problems. There'll be things you'll need to reiterate, things you'll back off from and do a second time. But if everyone's on the page saying, we've got to do this, let's get behind it, let's engineer it, let's support it, you'll succeed. Whereas if you pick the wrong time and everyone's going, I really don't want to do this, then you're almost doomed to fail before you start. So I think our timing's spot on. And in that respect, I feel very, very lucky to be the CEO of Lloyd's at this particular point in time.
So you've made me think of a question. I've been listening to what you had to say in all 3 of our videos here. You were talking about when you reimagine Lloyd's, having a new way for people to showcase product. How are you going to enable people to do that also in sort of a virtual capacity? Have you guys got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think we can show the underwriting room to the world in real time. You know, and I think, you know, one of the thoughts I've got, we have a lab, we have an InsurTech lab inside the Lloyd's building. It's on the 4th gallery. It should be on the ground floor. So I think as we reimagine the underwriting room, you'd kind of want to see the activity. You'd want to see the Lloyd's lab. You'd want to see the InsurTechs at work. You'd want to see demonstrations, a real marketplace, you know, people showing what they can do. So I think there's an amazing opportunity to see in real time the good ideas that are manifesting itself around the industry to support communities, businesses, people, governments go about their work. And, you know, the beauty of modern technology is you can showcase that absolutely in real time. So I think it's little ideas like that that will make a difference. So rather than be secretive about the Lloyd's marketplace or secretive about the underwriting room, open it up, let people see what goes on.
I think obviously things like climate change, which seems, I don't know, I mean, climate change has been around for centuries. We understand that. But I don't know, just I think over the past 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, wherever that may be, all of a sudden it's become front and center. And I'm not saying it shouldn't be, but it seems to have come front and center. So I would imagine that Lloyd's would have to be addressing it, if I can put it as simplistically as that.
Yeah, we produced our first ESG report in December last year, and arguably we were late on doing that. Many of the big insurers have produced their own report, and we're right to do that. You know, I think sustainability in its broadest sense begins and ends every conversation these days. You know, we all have to think in a sustainable way. And, you know, I spent 8 years living in Australia, and you had completely the juxtaposition of climate there, where you had a country that was understandably preoccupied with climate. You know, it's a critical agenda item for government and for the people, and yet 70% of the energy in Australia comes from coal. So you have this complete contradiction, and that's fine, because you've got to get the debate on the table. You've got to have the debate and work through the solution. And what excites me about insurance and sustainability is when you look at, you know, the green revolution. Well, what's on the green revolution? It's offshore wind, it's low carbon hydrogen, it's nuclear power, it's zero emission vehicles, it's jet zero, it's green ships, it's greener buildings. The list goes on and on. We can insure them. We can design products and services that support that world. So I'm saying to my own team, can we stop the thought leadership? You know, I don't want thought leadership. I want action leadership. So I don't want a thought plan around climate. I want an action plan. So when the governments turn up at COP26, you know, to reignite Paris's agreement, you know, the Paris Agreement from 2015 in Glasgow at the end of this year, we should be there as an industry saying these are the products and services that we have designed for the green revolution. what you want to do. And that's what insurance should do. We should be action-oriented, not thought-led.
Well, what an interesting time to be the leader of the world's leading insurance market. John, thank you so much for taking time to chat with us today. You've been watching Leaders in Action Looking Ahead. If you have a comment or a question about the series, you can reach out to us at Bill, that's BILL @olderhood.com. And we look forward to chatting with you again soon. Take care, everyone.